Welcome to the Religiously Offensive Podcast.
So, how's it going? Anyone have any had any profound thoughts over the last few days? No? Just playing disc golf?
I had a really good conversation with my cousin that lasted for like hours the other day. And I basically figured out that, well,
Something you want to say?
Justin always has profound thoughts.
We landed
sure
on
you
this
wanna say?
place because we were talking for hours, man. And like he's a pastor and he's just an incredible guy. And we just started talking, and it's like, you know, there's certain people you're like, all right, how vulnerable are we about to get? Like, do I really want to dive into these waters, whatever? And I just kind of like, I just don't care anymore. I don't know how to just BS it anymore. I mean, I used to. I got sick of it. And so
You're out of practice.
Yeah. I was just like, it's not worth it. So we just get to talk, and we're talking about everything. And
Keep talking, hold on.
he just asked me, he's like, it's very obvious that you're really hard on yourself and you're very critical of yourself. And he's like, it seems like because of how critical you are towards yourself, that you naturally are very critical towards whether it's a church or another person or things like that. And it's like, in the same sense of like, if you can't love you, if you can't love yourself, like you're not gonna be able to love others well. Like you have to first learn how to love yourself, which I mean comes right back to that the great commandment of loving others as you love yourself.
Right.
And you know,
Was that like a revelation to you, or
no? I mean, I know there's always been things about me that I didn't like, and it was more so like tendencies. I mean, dude, I don't care. I mean, I was always the shortest kid in my group. I was always the shortest kid, like friend in my friend group. So it's like, sure, there's like definitely insecurities around that because it's like so much of my 20s was just kind of going out, bar hopping, like, you know, you're trying to chase girls. And it's like the girls always pick the tall guys, right? So it's like, short, like for sure, there's like little areas where there's like an insecurity within that, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And it's something where like I like hid it. I didn't hide it from myself. I knew like if I could change myself, I would. But that's like, how do I get to the point in like my journey where I wouldn't change that if I could?
Right.
Right. And it's like, it's hard because we always naturally look in the mirror and we're just like, don't like this. Or like the simple fact of like, I'm kind of in my little like marshmallow season, right? I've always been very in shape, like pretty shredded most of my life because of sports and stuff like that. And since the pandemic, this is the first time that I kind of just didn't care as much, let it go, got a little bit of a gut, whatever. It's, you know, it's not like most people wouldn't notice, but for me, when I look in the mirror every day, I'm just like, ew, like Justin, you know, get it together. Like, cause I was talking to him about this and I was like, you know, sometimes I like a good kick in the pants where like I responded good to coaches when they would like get in my face and she'd be like, come on, bro, like get it together. Like, I know you can do better. Like I didn't need the soft, like kind of the mitts on. I needed someone to just clock me and just be like, bro, wake up.
Right.
Right. So, but because of that, I looked at myself and I'm like, man, I've just gotten like, sometimes I look in the mirror and like, bro, you lazy little tchotchke, like get up, go to the gym, like get it together. And that was a moment where like he just sat there and looked at me. He was like, bro, if there's anything I know about you, you're not lazy. Like you may have like fallen off in this one area of life, but it's like all of these narratives that you tell yourself, it's like not only is it really like not allowing you to see who you really are, but then also because of that, now you're projecting a lot of insecurities in other relationships, in other areas. Wow. And right, you're putting up walls, stuff like that. So, you know, I think about just the simple reality of like, even we've talked about that psychological concept of like fish love a lot on this podcast, where we're just like, oh, I love salmon. And it's like, it's not really what you mean. And I mean, I had just like a blast, like in my, just deep in my heart. That was just like, that's literally how use a lot of relationships, like my relationships. There's very few relationships where I just like unconditionally love people.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think about like my brothers, my mom. But the sad thing is like when it comes to me, my love is completely conditional
For yourself?
for myself. So it's like when I'm like shredded up and feeling good, I'm just like, yeah, I like you more now.
Right.
Right? When I can go a week or two without touching any alcohol, I'm like, oh, I like you more now. But it's like the goal is no matter how ugly, no matter how dark, is to look in the mirror and say, it's like, I love you, bro. Like, it's okay. It doesn't matter. So like, but that's hard. Like,
Yeah.
how do you climb over that hill of like that natural tendency of like, I like me more when X.
Right.
Or even like affirmations, thinking about like, I am this, I am that. Like, it's just like we say those things because we want to become that, which isn't bad. But inherently what we're saying is like, I don't like that I'm this way. I am this
I'm
because I
not
want to
there
become
yet.
this.
Right.
But it's like, that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever. People talk about like loving yourself, saying nice things to yourself, and all that as it relates to health, right? Especially when I think, I'm just trying to think about. Like, I've never really sat and thought about what does that really mean. Like, 'cause I think myself is myself. Like, I'm like, from my position, I'm in a position where I could say I love you, Justin, I love you, Luke. But looking at myself, it's just like, how do I? Because I'm myself. Like, so how do I express that to myself from the same place it came from? I don't know.
I know, man, and that's what I'm saying.
I'm
It's like
very
impossible.
logical about it, and I just don't know if I like, because I've never.
Maybe like the way you're wired. Like make it specific. Like, do you love your own personality? Do you wish you were more like that? Like, I think that's kind of.
I don't love my personality. I wish I was a little more outgoing. And I mean, the thing is, like, I've been, you would have to go through like conditioning and changing yourself. Like, so for example, the way I talk and communicate is very like monotone, and I mumble a lot. So that would take a lot to get out of. And if I did that, I don't even know, like, people probably wouldn't even see me as me.
Are you
But
saying
what
to
if
change?
the goal wasn't to change it?
Are you saying
to
to change the way you talk is what you're saying?
Sure. Yeah.
Because what I guess where I'm going is like,
No, but you.
to just
can you
love
love
the way
yourself in
talk,
spite of like
not change?
that?
Oh,
right?
yeah. No, but that's the thing.
Like
I've never.
learning to unconditionally.
Sure. But like, there's always those things that's just like, yeah, kind of wish it was like that, but
Right.
it is what it is.
Well, that's what I was telling Luke. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
most of my life being the shortest kid in the class, or at least the shortest guy.
Yeah.
And then on my sports teams being the shortest guy, in my friends groups being the shortest guy, going out on weekends, all the girls were just, boom, all the tall guys got the girls. So it's like, yeah, I would sit here my whole life. I'm like, I'm not insecure about my height because like only, chotches are insecure about their height. Like,
Yeah.
I don't deal with that. But it's like, nah, I mean, if I was taller, I'd like me more.
Sure. Well,
So-
it's so fun because that's something like, it's like if you are insecure about, you notice. Like you were just saying, literally, I've never noticed that correlation in my life. Tall guys, because I think I'm in the middle. Like I'm real average. So
Tall enough, yeah.
yeah, but I'm not like I feel like if I was real tall, I'd almost kind of like have that feeling like, oh yeah, this is like to my advantage, but I'm not. So
This is like
so I'm like either I'm Goldilocks in the middle.
the stuff. It's like self-awareness. Like to be able to know, because the reality is everyone has things they wish they could change about themselves. Even to the core, like whoever your idol is, they have flaws within themselves they don't like.
But so
So-
my question.
Yeah.
Think about the people closest to you that you love completely and unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would you tell them like something like silly, like an insecurity that someone might have about their height? Like, obviously, you would look at from the outside and just be like, bro, your height means nothing. Like, I love you.
Sure.
Or it doesn't matter if you're 7 feet tall or 4 feet tall. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So it's like, how do we figure out? And that's why I was talking to him earlier. It's just like, that's a really hard thing to do, especially in our society, where it's like, I just listened to a podcast where Aaron Rodgers talks about like an ayahuasca journey where basically that was his revelation. And I think he's only done it once maybe, but it was like a plant medicine type assisted thing where it's like, because in a similar sense, it could be an awareness thing, or B, it's just like, it is like, how do you get over that hump? Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I don't know how to, because we all say that, right? It's like, yeah, there's things, like you said, there's things about all of us that we would change if we could. But it's like the idea of now there's something different about like detrimental behavior, right?
Yeah.
But things in terms of just like, even like something like a personality or like the way you talk, it's like to me, if you talked more like vibrantly or didn't mumble as much, like it wouldn't affect the way I feel about you, right? And I think that was kind of the point he was getting at, was like, how do we get over that hill where it's like, because when from the outside looking at someone, like, I care less what you talk like.
Right. I guess I'm just saying, like, the first step is knowing what those things are for you. Because, like, for me, I know there's people that I look up to where I'm like it's like a competitiveness or like an insecurity that I'm not the best at something. That kind of drives me nuts. And so I've had to learn, like, okay, that's a trigger for me. And so why is that? Let's figure out some like past events that have happened, some trauma I've been through. What is the root of that? And then how you solve it, I guess, depends on what your belief system is. But like, it's funny you bring this up, because how I go about like deep thoughts is I try and study them and like create a study on them. Of course, mine's like I believe in God, so like that's my base of it all. And so like, I feel like we as humans, my thesis statement on this is, we as humans tend to attach ourselves to things that can change. Like, my whole worth is in my relationship with this girl. My whole worth is in sports, or fill in the blank, like being the cool guy at school. And then all of a sudden, and all of those things, like, school's going to end eventually. Your girlfriend, you might break up. Your sport you're not going to play it forever. So all those things change. And when it does, it leads to like identity crisis. Like, that's what
100%.
happened to me with basketball. So how do you put your worth in something that doesn't change? Well, what are the things that don't change? And so, I mean, as you guys for sure have heard all this, but like, to be able to stand on something that doesn't change, like the Bible, for example, whenever those things that do change fall through, the one constant is like, okay, I know that even when I fall short, that this is still constant about me. This is what God still thinks about me, even though that relationship ended.
Right.
And so it still hurts and sucks when all those things fail, but ultimately your worth is still intact. So that's it's very interesting that you bring that up, because that's the last week I've been like studying that exact thing.
I think that's kind of really the saving grace for a lot of Christians, is the fact that they can rely on the Bible not changing. The weird thing is, like we've talked about before a lot, is that when people interpret some weird stuff in the text and they consider that the thing they stand on, it's weird. Yeah, it's hard to fight that sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, no. So what I was saying is before is like, I brought up the vocal thing, like the voice thing, for just really to say that I don't know what it is, like, because I know in high school, and I mean, you're very insecure almost about everything,
For sure.
right? And in college, and that kind of starts to wane off, I think, as you get older. And I feel like I'm just at this point right now where I acknowledge that stuff could change, but I don't put my identity into any one thing. Like, so I do a lot of stuff, like, and I just don't, like, if I stopped playing on the worship team or something happened and I wasn't able to play anymore, okay, just fill that time with something else. I guess that, it's like, I don't know if it's just like a Zen approach I've taken just since I've had this more of life perspective with kids and everything. But I'm just like, yeah, I mean, one thing that is tough that does change, and you kind of wrap yourself up in, is your family.
Yeah.
Especially as a dad growing up, it's just like, if something were to happen to any of my kids, like, I don't know what I would do. Right. Like, so, and that's tough.
But it's not to say that like if, and we'll just use like the worship example because it's friendlier, but like, it's not to say that if the worship team ended, that you can't like be upset about it.
Yeah.
Like, of course you can.
Sure.
Of course, it sucks. It's something you love to do.
Yeah, but if you
I'm just
you
saying.
spiral into depression and that was
Yeah.
your whole identity and everyone knew you as the guy that was on stage.
It would essentially be an idol.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what idols do. They come in all shapes and sizes, and like it's not that big of a deal. Or
That's because I think all this stuff is really rooted, is my personal opinion, is all rooted in a fear that if you really were honest with yourself, you could track it back. Like, okay, so if your identity is in being a part of the worship team, right? So there's some level of acceptance that you feel like you're getting from being a part of that group or whatever. So then is there a fear of rejection?
sure,
Right? Which is something that I definitely had, right? So I always put on the mask because I would have never said like, I don't care about rejection, but it's like, well, sometimes like your mind will play tricks on you and it's like your actions will say something like this, or like with losing a loved one, it's like fear of loss. It's like all of these things that
I don't think
just,
anyone
like,
likes rejection.
well, for sure.
fair.
Even like
The people that think
who
they
have
do.
been in sales for 20 years, they still don't
Well,
like rejection.
You can despise it for sure. But again, it goes back to the identity thing. It's like there are things that happen in life, and it's whether we allow them to kind of stick with us and carry it. But it's like, that's why, when I listen to these people talk about it, it's like they have these profound experiences where they're just like, the worst thing ever could happen to me tomorrow and I would be okay.
And I would love to have that experience. I really want to. That is, yeah. Ever since I heard Rogan talk about it a few years ago on his podcast, well, he talks about it frequently. But yeah, it just seemed like it would just be a really eye-opening thing.
And I'm not saying, like, I think you actually absolutely can do the work if you're intentional about it. To me, it's just fascinating. Listen to a lot of people have gone through similar experiences, and they're just like, it was like a switch that just flipped, and it was like one experience, and you come out. I mean, it's like, we've had those experiences like at an altar or in a worship set where it's like one moment, one night. It's just like you feel you just leave changed. It's just like how deep it kind of gets.
I'm wondering how, because I've had those experiences multiple times, and it seems like they fade. I wonder how that is. That experience, like, I wonder if it fades.
I know.
That's probably why that guy has done it 80 times. I mean, there has to be a fading kind of effect.
Yeah,
What
I
is
don't know.
it? Some type of
The ayahuasca is what. Are you that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Specifically that, because Aaron Rodgers was on a podcast talking about it where it really changed his life. And
Yeah,
like,
Tony Robbins has done it. A lot of these high-profile guys have done it.
Yeah, and what's interesting is Aaron Rodgers talked about how after that it was like, of course he's going to show up and do the work and play as best he can, but like he was like, the best thing that I can bring to the locker room and give to my teammates is like legitimate unconditional love. And I mean, it's a fascinating podcast because they just get real vulnerable. Like he cries, it's really solid because you're just like, dude. And it's just like all these little things that we pick up because it's just part of culture, part of society. And it's just conditioning us to be so hyper aware and focused on like, oh, this person's a little better at this than me. This person's a little like better looking than me. This person, da-da-da-da. And it's just amazing listening to these people talk about it. It's just like somehow something just gets turned off where you're just like, that doesn't matter. None of these things matter.
I think, like, to echo that, all of us wish that we could just like switch it off or switch it on, but probably more realistic is the understanding that your whole life is a journey dealing with that stuff. So that's 100%. Why like therapy and counseling is like critical, like correct therapy and counseling, where you can like find out what the root causes are, find out how to cope with it, and like not just survive, but like do so in a way that not survive, but thrive. You know what I mean? Because that stuff is not, and I mean, every human being who's ever lived outside of the perfect one has like things that, like that, deep baggage, deep rooted issues, whether they acknowledge it or not. That's the first part of the battle. But the second is having the humility to understand that you're not this perfect person and you need to figure out ways to deal with it to better off yourself. So I don't know what is it called?
Yeah.
Ayahuasca.
Yeah,
Ayahuasca.
It's a yes.
I don't know what that's about.
It's like a drink made from a bunch of different herbs and plants and stuff that was kind of a ceremonial
Almost like a rite of passage type thing.
Yeah, more like remote tribes and
Central
stuff,
South
like
America
where it came
primarily,
from.
I think.
Yeah. So,
But-
rainforest people.
But yeah, and I agree. Like it's, I think I wonder. It's like, because I agree with you. Like most Americans, it's just part of life. It's just what we deal with. But then you listen to these other guys, and you're like, but does it have to be? Like it's like, I don't know. Maybe they just do a really good job of, I don't know. It definitely made me look curious. But yeah, so I mean, there's the whole element of things within ourselves, and then there's the whole element of like walking through like hurt and betrayal, things that other people do. So there's the whole aspect of figuring out how to really unconditionally love ourselves, and then there's the aspect of when someone hurts you and you go through a betrayal, like I think a lot of that stuff people will hold on to, not realizing it. And then, I mean, we see it all the time. So many people have to deal with, childhood trauma and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's also the fine line of like trauma is ultimately a teacher, right? And it's scary because I feel like we're almost going too far in the wrong direction in America, because it's like everyone is just lining up to figure out how to be a victim, or like who can be the biggest victim. Like I've been watching these, like, I don't even know why. I've seen these like funny clips online sometimes where like this dude will just show up in like a full on like kind of memoirs of a geisha setup, and it's like this white dude with like the paint on his face and everything, and he'll go to like, he'll just walk around, he'll go to like college campus, go all over the place, and like, well, he'll ask white people about like, what do you think of my outfit, and they'll just be like, oh, I think it's pretty insensitive, I think it's pretty racist, I think you're culturally appropriating. And then he'll go to like Chinatown, and everyone he asks, they're just like, I love it, very nice, like they're just like, everyone like loves it, like. And then similar ones with other stuff, but it's just funny how,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We've lost touch a lot. I mean, that's why I think that's a lot of what prompts people, especially like, rich businessmen or like successful people who do this ayahuasca trip. Something in that like I feel like something in that just breaks people down to a base level.
The ego.
To where,
Yeah.
well, if you were to take us out of our environment and you were to put us all in the woods and we were told to survive in just like a commune type setup, right? Where each of us depends on each other. We would act way differently.
Mm-hmm.
The typical person who's like, screaming all these things, calling people bigots and, all that stuff. Like you put them in a situation where they have to depend on each other. They're going to like love those people because they have to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the way we were wired. It's not, we've taken ourselves so far from the way we were wired. It takes an ayahuasca trip for someone to be like, oh, I do have to depend on these. Like, I love these people because I depend on them. They depend on me. And like, this is all, you know what I mean? It's like some of the stuff that he was probably, I didn't see it, but some of the stuff he was probably saying was probably like some of the stuff that like people in these poor countries have known forever, because they live it every day. But we're so far separated. It's like, we need that like crazy mental, like hot wire in order to realize, oh, like this is on the base what it means to be human. It's kind of crazy.
No, I mean, we work so hard to essentially isolate ourselves, right? Like it's like, and then we hear about all times, whether it's in nature or even a spiritual sense, right? Like it's like with the Christianity I grew up, always hear like the enemy wants you isolated, right? He doesn't want you like in the tribe, we were in the pack. And then in the same sense in nature, right? They always go after the isolated animal, right? So it's just funny because now I live in America and it's like everyone wants their own home. Nobody wants to, like, I need to look it up. Did we already talk about it? The Bible verse that talks about literally like it's like a mandate to take care of your like elders or parents or something like that. Is that somewhere else? Maybe I'm thinking of something
I hope
else.
not.
But it's just like funny because I like joke about like,
I mean, yeah,
like nobody wants to
I'll
live
take
with
care of
like
my
their parent
mom,
or
but
like yeah.
It's just like,
Well, so much of us would rather just like move them down, move them close, get them their own little place, check on them, and da da da. Or some people are just like just put them in a home, all this stuff.
no, they have those nice communities now. I mean,
No, you're not wrong. But it's just what I'm saying. Like think about other cultures. Like it's funny. It's like, dude, as a child, you're raised by these people, and then it's like, if you're lucky enough to even get old enough to be kind of an elder, I'm sure their mortality rates are kind of unfortunate. It's just expected that, like, dude, these people have given their lives to this community. It's like now it's our turn to take care of them.
Yeah, it's kind of funny when you think about it that way, because now everyone's so healthy and living so long that the old like outnumber the working class, like they could support the old. So, and I'm sure at that time, like you're saying, not as many people made it to that age where it'd be easier for people to take care of. Like you probably have so many people to one old person.
I mean, we had to create Social Security, and now we don't pay for it.
It's failing because
people don't want to take care of their parents.
Well, I mean, you would have people digging into Social Security either way, but there's too many people. There's not enough people paying in. There's too many people taking out. You know what I mean? So that was kind of my point. Like the numbers don't work.
That's a lot of cost of living though too, right? Because theoretically, you don't get Social Security unless you paid into it. Right?
I think there's exceptions to that, but
okay.
But the other thing is too, it's like the program wasn't done properly. So like it's just, I mean, whether it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like you can't live on $1,600 a month or whatever people are getting.
Well,
right. So it's like
when they were like 20 paying into Social Security, like the check because like my grandma gets a Social Security check.
Inflation.
I mean, cost of living is so high. It's like if she was still living 40, 50 years ago, she'd be fine.
Sure.
But then I don't know if that number is also inflated. Yeah, I don't know exactly how that works. Either way, it's just because I get it. I'm the same way. I'm just like, my mom's pretty well off. Like, she'll be fine. But it's like, man, this woman literally like wiped my butt and raised me and sacrificed everything for me. And I'll never really repay that. Like, I'll be nice to her. I'll hang out with her in her old age. But it's like to really like care for someone to that level.
I think she probably is more so would say that doing that enabled you to do that for your children. It's like paying it forward so you can pay it forward so your kids can pay it forward.
Yeah.
So if you don't have any kids,
I'm just saying, Ma, you can have a room in my house.
That's tough.
It's going to be tough, but we're going to get through it.
You may have to repay her by wiping her butt if you don't have kids.
Probably get you some diapers. Some adult diapers.
Ugh, there it is. Right on time.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
All right, hold on. Keep talking about that subject.
Talking.
I need to look up because I could have sworn.
Oh, boy.
Ooh, that could have been bad.
Okay, it wasn't. We're still recording.
Oh, dang.
JJ would have shed a tear. Special delivery.
It's probably something from Amazon for him. Who's it for? Nate. Nice.
Classic.
Man, it's busy. Oh, dang.
Anyway, what did I miss?
1 Timothy 5:8. But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever.
Well, I would say, so most people probably have the household thing covered. And then as far as relatives, that's pretty vague.
It says relative, bro. And separately from the household.
I mean, I've always done stuff for my relatives, but
First
I'm
Timothy
just
5:8.
1 Timothy 5:8.
That's tough. It says
But
what?
that's what I'm
What does
saying.
it say? If you don't,
If anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. But these are the juxtapositions I'm talking about in terms of the culture in America we've created.
But anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household. So what are you saying? What's the point of reading that?
I'm saying take care of your parents.
we were talking about taking care of.
Right. Okay.
But what I hate that they do with this is like they say you're worse than an unbeliever, and I'm just like, that's literally not true. Like I don't think that. I mean, because if you have estranged relatives,
the Bible true
Bible
or is it not
versus
true?
JJ.
no, but I'm just like,
I'm saying- But that's
so if you
what
have
I'm
an
saying.
estranged uncle that keeps taking advantage of you, you keep giving him money,
Well, you're making a good point.
and all of a
What
sudden you
is
cut
it?
him off, are you worse than an unbeliever then?
But that's
I mean,
what,
what's
no. There's, I would say that is love in a way. That is taking care of him in a way. The problem is here's the problem. I think what this looks like, we want it to be like, okay, well, you have to treat everyone the same way. And that's not, I don't even think that's what love is. Like, if you have an estranged, like I have an estranged brother who is toxic and detrimental to the family. So it would be foolish of me to allow him into my home and to wreck everything. And it would be foolish for me to not confront that and set up boundaries. And so I think in those cases, cutting them off is healthy and is love, because otherwise you're enabling them to continue to do the same thing, and that destroys everything. So kind of flipping the script on what love looks like. What does it say? What providing for them looks like. That doesn't necessarily mean providing them with things. Provide them with truth. Provide them with a slap in the face of, this is reality. Here's what you're doing. Here's what. So it's not like a clear cookie cutter, this is how you're supposed to treat your relatives, period, or else you're worse than an unbeliever. It's like, it might look different, but
I guess my question is, how do you think
it's a case by case, a lot of it.
would
Yeah,
respond
I mean,
to
I can get on
toxic
board with that.
people?
In what regard?
Because I guess, you know,
'Cause he
he rebukes
did
the
do that.
Pharisees, but that's more or less religious people twisting the law for their own gain type of a thing.
It'd
just
be interesting
think-
to study the interactions Jesus had with his parents. I've never thought about it.
I don't think we have enough. I don't think it really goes into it.
We've got a few. When he's about to go to the cross, and this is exactly a good tie into this. When he knows he's about to die, he commands, who was it, James? To watch over his mother when he's gone.
Was it James?
James or John, before he
Because
goes.
James was his brother,
Then
so
it
that would
must
have been
have
his
been.
mom also, right?
Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense
it
though.
must have been.
You
It's either
tell
James
your
or
brother to
John.
watch over your mom.
But as he's
We should have been
dying,
doing that anyways.
I remember
Lazy
being
man.
taught that, like, as he's about
Well,
to go die, he's
I mean,
thinking about
Jesus,
his mom.
imagine being brothers of Jesus. Like you kind of automatically assume he's got covered.
They didn't even believe in Jesus.
Well,
Fun fact: Jesus' own
yeah,
siblings
that's
weren't
true.
even followers.
Yeah, that
of
was
them.
Yeah, it was John.
that was
John.
I remember that.
So that's a prime example right there of even Jesus, when he's about to die, he's thinking, okay, someone needs to take care of mom when I'm gone. This is going to wreck her, which is cool. It's cool to think about. I don't
Yeah.
know any other accounts, but that's the first one I think of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
But yeah, anyways, everyone's
just
households
tough.
are so different.
I think there's seasons to create distance with
Sure.
toxic people, but because I've dealt with toxic family members for sure. I mean, I've been that toxic family member.
Sure.
Yeah, I think there's a way to create healthy boundaries, but I also think it can be dangerous to just put them in a bucket of like, we don't associate with these people because my past has told me that they just destroy everything they touch, which may be true. But ultimately, when I think about Jesus, I have to think that there's always room left for redemption. And then
Sure.
at that point, how much of it is my responsibility? Do I just say, I'm going to trust God that he's going to bring people in their life and then I wash my hands of it? Like, I don't know what it looks like.
Sure.
I just think with all of those things, when people like really, I think a lot of it is still rooted in a self-preservation,
Sure.
which is so much of just human nature. But I mean, that's what Jesus says. Like, anyone who wants to save his life is going to lose it.
Yeah.
So it's like the core deep thing of, I don't know.
Selflessness. But there's also the
It's
reality
tricky.
that it's like, it's not my responsibility to take on their responsibility. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, someone's got to grab life by their own horns and figure it out. Like,
No, I know. That's why.
so there's
that was part of my
always a
beef.
factor that you can't control that ultimately decides the outcome.
Well, I agree.
But that doesn't mean you're not loving them
Yeah,
or
yeah,
accepting them. It's just like, maybe it's like a constant reevaluation.
Yeah.
Because if I'm a dad and I have kids and I have a toxic relative, like, I'm not going to allow, you know what I mean? Toxic meaning whatever. You could fill in the blank, but that doesn't mean that I don't love them and won't give them a chance to redeem themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that's tricky.
It's case
But
by
that's
case.
again why, like, these scriptures, I mean, it's so hard to try to, like, every situation is a little different. And then it's like, okay, yes, but so it's tricky. It's really hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's good.
We didn't even have any fun icebreakers. We just
We dove straight into
turned
that
that on and let's get waist deep here.
for all of our serious listeners.
I watched Aaron Rodgers cry this morning, and I was just like, bro,
Let's ask a dumb
there's
question.
something to this.
Let's ask a dumb question.
Just lighten the mood.
You want to ask a dumb question? A little intermission here. Did you have a stuffed animal as a child? What was his name?
Yeah, and I'm gonna get roasted for this.
Mm-hmm.
I had this weird like thing for potatoes,
Yeah, it's stuffed potato.
Solid food.
and I named him Phil Potatoson.
Phil Potatoson.
I can't even provide any further context.
You had
on that. It was
an
a
actual
stuffed-
potato?
it was stuffed.
Stuffed animal, or it was
kind of like a Mr.
stuffed
Potato
potato?
Head. Yeah,
Stuffed potato.
fully loaded.
Those
What's
would.
that?
I mean, that would make.
Who's
a
your
good
Modern
pillow
Family
too,
guy?
right?
Phil what? Dumpy?
Phil Dunphy.
Modern legend.
I was trying to think if there's a way to use
I don't
that
even
name
have
a little
any.
bit more.
I don't even know. I was so young. I don't even know why that was a thing.
Potatoson.
Phil Potatoson,
Phil Potatoson. I had a blanket. I had a blue blanket that was
legendary.
yeah.
I also had that.
I never had an animal that I remember.
Man,
We always got like orcas.
I had a
'cause we were-
bear. I can't remember its name though.
What were those things called? Beanie Babies.
Ooh,
Big time.
we had a Beanie Baby phase.
They were fun to throw at people.
Painful.
You got to get those tags and a little protector, man.
Dude, you know, it'd be awesome. Just like, you know how all the bars have cornhole. Just to have Beanie Baby cornhole.
It's all the old Beanie Babies.
Yeah, you're just
Get
throwing little
destroyed.
stuffed animals.
Those things were so sick, though.
Yeah,
Dude, yeah. I mean, some of them are pretty valuable now.
I don't know why I haven't seen that. I want to have that now. I want a Beanie Baby cornhole. I just buy normal cornhole and then just get.
There's
Beanie
so many
Babies.
different shapes and sizes that they just wouldn't fly the same. It'd be pretty inconsistent, I feel like.
Yeah, you buy 2 of each one. And you have what, 4
so
bags?
now we're gonna throw the platypus.
Well, you can throw them in
Each
any
team.
order you want, but each round you're throwing a platypus.
Oh, the same. Okay, so each team is throwing the same 4 Beanie Babies.
Right.
That's fair.
So platypus, kangaroo, duck. And
Got to get
chicken.
a bear in there. One of the bears, you know.
Bear.
We have like 3 Princess Diana bears somewhere in boxes with like things on.
Beanie Babies?
Yeah. Those
cool.
things, if you got a first edition one, they'll sell for like $5,000 a pop, no problem. Looked it up the other day.
Yeah, I was about to say.
What's
just
funny is
locked with all that.
99.99% of everyone's collections are useless, though.
You know what's
Are
crazy
worthless.
about them though is because, like, usually, like for Pokemon, for example, to get the really valuable cards, you have to send them off to get graded,
Right.
and they have to come back perfect. With Beanie Babies, you just need a first edition. You can verify it's first edition and just have like no noticeable wear and tear. Sell that thing tomorrow.
Yeah, because they didn't really come in boxes, did they? I don't think they did.
I don't know. Some of the
So it's like
bears
not
did because they
Oh,
were
like-
more rare.
It's like special edition.
Because like just the normal store, like I remember we would go to this flower store. My mom used to love my mom's parents had a flower store for many years, so she just loved going to a flower store on our way home from the gym sometimes. And when we were little, and we would always go to this one store, and they had a little like Beanie Baby area with like some baskets just full of them. So we would always like stock up on them. But they never had like the bears. So there's like the emerald one. There's like the American one. Princess Diana was always the most popular. There's a tie-dyed one. But those were like known as like the more rare and valuable ones, especially if you got
Nice.
like a first edition.
Oh, that's enough about Beanie Babies. What was one new experience you tried that was completely unknown or uncomfortable to you at the time you tried it?
Skydiving for sure.
Yeah,
You've done that?
Oh yeah,
he did it.
it was gnarly, bro. We
I'd
did
love to do that.
18,000 feet.
We should do it as an
And-
office.
Would you bungee jump?
Oh yeah,
That one weirds me out.
Does it?
100%. I think bungee jumping would be easier than skydiving.
I disagree.
I don't know about
Bro,
that.
you're climbing in that plane for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, but
Just
at least you
watching
have more
But when you're,
time.
but when you're, there gets to a point where you can like basically just separate from the ground. So like, I feel like when I'm in a plane, because I've been in a Cessna, I've not jumped out of one, but like when you're up there, it's just like if I had to jump out right now, it would be uncomfortable. But it's just like, at least at first, you're just falling.
Bro.
Like I wouldn't see.
Wait till you're sitting
I'm
on that
sure,
bench
I'm
and
sure.
the door opens and some dude strapped to your back is just humping you all the way to the door and you're just like, oh my God, it's happening.
I'm not
And
downplaying
there's
it.
just like there is.
No, but I'm with Luke on this one. I think
nervous, bro.
I mean, jumping off a bridge with a bungee,
The recoil freaks me out.
that doesn't freak.
Like the first doing, like what is that gonna feel like? It just whip me around.
I don't
Nah,
care
'cause
about that. I care about the
it's not
bungee
gonna
stopping
be
me,
a joke.
period. Like it just be like, I hope like something doesn't just come unhooked
Or
like
just
at the last
snaps,
second.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like snaps.
if that's what you're worried about, I'd be way more worried about one of my
Parachute?
clips being strapped to another dude because you don't got a parachute. You're hoping the other guy's parachute works, and you're
Sure.
hoping that you stay strapped to that dude.
Sure.
And you got no parachute if
But I
somehow
guess-
you get unstrapped.
At least he's a
I
pro.
understand that, but what I'm saying,
that means.
I'm saying the mental state that you're in right before you jump. I just feel like it would be harder jumping like off a bridge with a bungee strapped to me than it would be in a plane.
But the point of
I'm
that
gonna
is
have to
because you can
respectfully
see
disagree.
Because the
ground
ground
is right there.
The ground is there. You can
Yeah.
see and visualize the ground. You can't see that when you're in a plane.
which could be
Like, you know
more
it's high.
It could freak you out more. It just depends on.
I mean, you definitely see the earth.
No, I understand that. But like, okay, you ever climb like an outside set of stairs that's really high, or you're outside and like you notice you're really high at some
yeah.
point, and like you focus on the ground, and you're like, oh shit. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden, like you can refocus to where like you're currently at, and it's not so scary anymore. It's like, okay, this is like, I feel like it's easier to because that's a separation that happens. That's harder to do. I feel like when the ground is closer. You know what I'm saying? Like when you can like visualize, yeah, I could jump off of here and it would be a second and a half before I go splat. Like, right? Like in a plane, I guess it's like, all right, well, I have some time while I'm falling here to think about this. During the actual thing, that would be freakier.
Or when you're falling, you have more time. Like if something's wrong, skydiving, you have more time to attempt to fix it. You're falling for longer. Bungee jumping, something goes wrong, instant death. Which I'm not saying you don't die instantly in skydiving, but I'm saying you at least have a longer span of possibility.
No, I'm saying
to make something happen.
So I
to
guess what I'm
survive.
saying, I think bungee jumping would be harder, and I've done neither of these things, so I can't tell you.
I agree with you.
But what I'm
Same,
saying is,
same.
I feel
agree with
like bungee jumping would be harder to jump.
Yeah.
Skydiving would be worse, like while you're doing it. Like it would be scarier, like when you're in the act of doing it.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, I don't know. I can only speak like it was nerve wracking, like getting up there, and part of the problem too is like when you go most places to skydive now. I mean, dude, they just churn these things out, right? So they got planes just going up all day long. Like the instructor will jump, I don't know, 10 plus times a day, you know, and so you're just going up. And they don't tell you anything. They call your name. They tell you to sit here. They did that. You don't really even like go through any like training or any like, if this happens, do this. It's like, there's nothing you can do. Like you were strapped to the instructor. Like it's him. It's his job. You just hang tight. And
Didn't you say you were like your stuff was like loose?
Oh, it's freaking out.
and they don't
bro.
tell you that they tighten it before you go.
They
You're
don't
just
tell
like,
you anything. So I
it's like,
went.
should I say something? Should I say something?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is like it's like the vibes of like your instructor, where it's like the buddy I went with, like he had the really cool instructor. My instructor was a little weird and just not like personable. So he wasn't like, I mean, he wasn't like, is this your first time? I mean, nothing. He's like, just go stand there. I'll come get you. I mean, it was literally just like, okay. And like, it's not his job to console me. He has no idea it's my first time. And I'm trying to like not be like a chotch and just be like, yeah, dude, this is going to be sick. I can't wait. I'm so happy I'm here right now. I was literally just like, I swear to God, if I die today, I'm going to be so pissed. Like, internally, right? And so he gets y'all set up. And yeah, he puts on like the whole harness and then he just doesn't tighten it. And so like, and you're sitting in it for like 30 minutes before you wait to go up. And I'm just like looking at it. It's like, this is slipping right off my shoulders. Like I am a dead man. Like you cannot like, and it like, I don't know why I didn't like connect the dots, but I was like, I was having this moral dilemma for so long because I was like, I don't want to be the idiot. And I could have literally just Googled it on my phone. I was just, I don't know what I was thinking.
You're sitting there, sweat's dripping down your ass. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous.
But yeah, I'm sitting there just like, dude, I don't want to be the idiot.
Today's the day.
Because I kept, I forgot about this. I kept wanting to like slowly tighten it because I was like, this is not okay. And I would like slowly tighten it. And then the guy would come over and he'd be like messing with some things. Then he'd like re-loosen it. And I'm just like, bro, are you trying to kill me right now? And he's just no context, just doesn't say anything. And then,
and
they don't tighten it until like, okay, so here's the reason though, because once they tighten it, you're stuck in like this position. Like it's so tight.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be tight. But they don't tell you that.
But I'm
right?
just saying, you're the person that would fall to their death without asking someone.
Yeah, bro, I got too much pride. It's like, this is how I go, this is how I go.
Just refusing to ask a question.
Because, dude, they don't tighten it until like literally like 5 minutes before you jump because it's just not comfortable. And
Do they have a red light and a buzzer?
That'd
be sick, like in the movies.
I don't remember.
And the big door opens.
It's not like, I mean, it's not like a
All the
nice
wind.
plane. I mean, I was never like nervous,
right?
but
It's just a Cessna, right?
probably. I don't know. But
Wings over the
because we went the highest.
wings high or wings low? Wings high, right? You got to jump underneath.
The wings were behind us.
Were they high?
I don't know what
Above
that
you
means.
or below you? They were probably high.
I don't know. I have no idea.
It literally doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, and because we did 18,000 feet, which is the highest you can jump tandem. We were the last two to jump out.
You can jump higher by yourself.
Mm-hmm. You can go up to like 26,000 plus.
Oof.
If you do it yourself.
Are they wearing like oxygen?
Yeah, you're in like space now, but you're in like those like whole suits with like a legit like helmet with a mask but no oxygen or anything like that.
That's insane.
I mean, it's hard to breathe at first, but once you control your breathing, that's the most important thing.
Well, I mean, the
It's coming
guys,
so
the
fast, you
military
have to-
guys will jump way high, like even higher than that, and they'll have like the oxygen tanks, right?
Yeah, like that one buddy with the Red Bull thing. Didn't
Oh,
he like
he
jump
went,
from
like,
space?
Oh, that was sick.
He left the atmosphere.
He had a suit, helmet.
Yeah, he has a spacesuit on. Yeah. And he went up in a hot air balloon, didn't he?
Yeah, and then just jumped. He literally, if you look at the video, it's the Earth.
How freaked out would
Like
you
you
be?
can see from
I mean,
space.
dude, can you imagine? Like, I guess if you're
insane.
still in the air balloon, you know that gravity's still technically working.
Look up how fast.
But can you imagine?
Was that the highest? Was that like a record?
It's got to be.
How insane is that? So you're doing something literally no one else in the world has done and couldn't tell you what to expect.
He reached supersonic speed,
It's faster than the speed of sound. That's
according
wild.
to this random thing I just saw.
Isn't gravity though? Don't you fall at the same speed? Or at that point, are you taking into account
Well,
the
in a
rotation of the
vacuum,
Earth?
In a vacuum, theoretically, everything falls at the same.
Right. But he
Rate.
couldn't have been too far above the Karman line or he would have been toast. I mean, you've seen stuff that comes in from orbit.
Right. I mean, his get up had to have been heat resistant. I don't know.
I don't either, but that's crazy if he really hit that. Because if the Earth was rotating below him, I guess. And that.
And he landed. Yeah, he landed.
No clue. No clue.
Did he land right where he was supposed to? Mm-hmm. Dude, he probably did that simulator like a million times though.
No,
It's
but I mean, I
120
wonder.
It was
Terminal velocity.
24.5 miles in the air.
I wonder if they had to take into account orbital dynamics for that.
In a stratospheric balloon, 128,000 feet.
Oh, so maybe it was.
I mean, look at the
I could
picture.
have sworn the dude said 26 miles. So that was only 24 and a half miles. Never mind then.
What do you mean? That's still insane.
Well, I
It
did
was a
18,000.
50-year-old record.
Wait, how many? Wait, okay.
How many feet?
Let's see. 128,000.
Oh, that's totally different. I'm talking 26,000 feet.
Yeah,
I did
way more than that.
18,000 feet. I don't know why I was like,
So he did 110,000 feet higher than you. It's just bonkers. Oh, after accelerating to a top speed of 834.5 miles per hour.
that's crazy.
That's how fast he was falling.
How do you even start to slow down?
Yeah, so that's
Because you go
Deployed his
faster as you get
parachute.
lower because gravity's getting stronger, right?
so the Karman line is at 330,000. That's not even.
But what does that mean? What's the
Feet?
Karman line?
That's what is technically like accepted as space.
330,000 feet.
Oh, so he wasn't.
So he
in
was
space.
less than half.
So divided by 5.2.
It's pretty high up there.
Does
280?
gravity go all the way to that line?
Gravity continues forever.
Well, like as we
But
know,
like
it.
gravity that would pull you back.
Well, there's
Because
no.
what's the point you get to where gravity is not strong enough and you just whoop?
Well, that doesn't happen. So it doesn't happen as long as you're not moving. So he wasn't moving. He was going up in a balloon. So if like a rocket can have so much propulsion that the Earth's gravity can't hold it, like it can't keep pulling it to Earth, right? Because the rocket like pushes out of there. And same thing with like space station. If you get pushed off from that, you'll keep floating at the same rate the space station is, but you're kind of fucked. You're just floating out there. You're not going to float outside of Earth's gravity. You're still going to be.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You're still gonna
what's
keep
the
going
line
around.
where the gravity doesn't pull you back anymore.
I mean, that would probably be the Karman line is where.
How about
would do
this?
that.
That's crazy,
the
dude.
balloon, when fully inflated, was approximately 55 stories high. And it was made of high performance, I don't know this word, polyethylene film, which were only 0.0008 inches thick, 10 times thinner than a plastic sandwich bag.
Yeah, like
Was the thickness of the balloon?
Yeah.
they made it out of a bearskin condom. Is what they did.
How nuts
Ribbed
is
or
that?
not?
Yeah, ribbed balloon.
And
That's
he just
insane.
rode that up 120,000.
I guess though because that wouldn't concern me, just because it's like you're already like ready to jump out and fall, so it's like if the balloon pops, like just jump out and it'll be lower, but still crazy.
Says the dude who was scared of jumping out is 18,000.
All right, bro, let's go.
I mean, he was
Let's
wearing
go.
a full
Because the
suit.
next time I can't wait to go again. Because now I know what to expect, and next time's gonna be dope. First time was nerve wracking though. But once the moment we were out of the plane, totally chill. Like I never even had that stomach drop feeling, nothing. Because when you jump tandem, you get off to the edge, right? And they make you tuck your head like back in their kind of nook here. Because like they don't want people freaking out when you jump out and just like
knocking out the
your
instructor.
Oh, so they kind of
If that happened to me, dude, I don't.
yeah.
I
what they tell
couldn't.
you.
You'd die and you wouldn't know it.
I'd try and
Well, you'd have 90 seconds to think about it.
before we jumped. I'd like to know, how does this work?
Oh, so you're
Just in
saying,
case.
oh yeah, because he'd be knocked out and you'd be conscious. That would suck.
And I don't know if you could reach.
There's got to be an emergency.
hey, buddy.
There's
Yeah.
got to be an emergency protocol. They
No,
got
there's
to.
nothing, bro.
They don't tell you
Not
like, hey,
a thing.
pull this just in case.
Nope.
You have smelling salts
No
trying to wake
shit.
him up.
yeah.
As you're
You get them out of your pocket.
Just reach back, trying to like. I can't even say that. Never mind.
You're going 9,000 miles an hour.
I know where you're going. That's funny.
Anything you can, man. That'd be crazy.
That's horrifying.
But also, I will say the only other thing is I'm definitely next time looking into whether or not I can bring my own goggles because the ones they provide you with are trash. They don't feel good. It's hard to see out of. And all the instructors usually just jump with like those like just kind of like a top grade Oakleys with the little like rubber band that connects them in the back or whatever. That's all they use usually. But we should do that as an office though.
Yeah.
Big game.
There was so getting back to, I guess, that we, for the last few minutes here, there was, let's see. So there, and some of these are different topics we could do a whole podcast on. I'm trying to think. So this was interesting. It was just, if a miracle happened tomorrow and God reveals that conservative Christians are right about most things, what will you do? And it was like, go on and said more stuff. But then this one response was, if Bible has to be taken literally, all capitalists, thus conservative Christians, will go to hell. No, Ezekiel 18, no usury, no lending with interest, no exploiting the workers, no profit seeking. If it has to be taken literally, all conservative Christians will go to hell because as well, they don't feed the poor, don't clothe the destitute, don't visit, help the sick and the prisoners. Matthew 25, 31, 46. If it's to be taken literally, they all go to hell for not welcoming all immigrants and refugees as their own brothers. Conservative Christians have really no interest in having the Bible genuinely taken literally because of their greed, selfishness, individualism, nationalism. Many heretical, non-biblical beliefs would send them straight to hell. They take it literally only for a few passages they like while ignoring most of it. Now, I don't agree with his last comments there, but it's kind of crazy how if you look at that, not that, you'd have to agree with everything this guy says, but it's just like, wow. It's kind of like there's a lot of Christians I know, like call themselves Christians that like have a lot of these issues.
I mean, part of the reason that
I have issues, but
yeah. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of Christians would probably push back to the Ezekiel thing and just be like Old Covenant because that's in the Old Testament, and then they would probably.
But then you need to tithe.
Well, no, I'm saying it doesn't count because it's in the Old Testament.
Yeah, but then they'll tell you to tithe.
Oh, like they'll also tell you to tithe. Yeah, that's a good point.
But Jesus does say that though.
What?
You should tithe.
He doesn't though.
He does.
Oh well, this is juicy.
Where?
I don't remember where. He says you should tithe, but don't neglect these other things.
We did a whole podcast on this. I'm pretty sure he never said to tithe.
I'm almost 100%.
Were you here for that one?
I think so. Did we go that whole podcast? The problem was he didn't say 10%. He just said, yes, you should tithe.
Well,
But
yeah,
you
that
should
was.
also not
I think that
neglect.
was the.
He confronted them and said, tithing, you should tithe, but also don't neglect like the posture of your heart. That should also be.
Yeah, because I don't know. I guess what I was thinking, or my memory, it was essentially he didn't tell us, or he didn't endorse the tithe, but he did like.
Matthew 23:23.
What does it say?
Let me get the right. This one's weird.
Because my understanding was he replaced the law with the covenant, but that basically it was like now it was a generosity thing, which should have led to giving probably even more than the tithe. So he wasn't saying like don't give, but I think my understanding was he was instituting a thing that was actually going to ask for more from you. Because there's the whole verse of like give Caesar what is Caesar and give God what is God.
Right.
So in that context,
No, that's not the right one. It's not Matthew.
Yeah, so the 23:23 is the one you're referencing.
23.
So it said some defend tithing by saying Jesus praised tithing, even if he said it was less important than other things. Matthew 23:23 and Luke 11:42. This argument appears strong, but it's not persuasive. Jesus also mentioned offering sacrifices in the temple, but Christians don't think, even if the temple were rebuilt, that we should do that. Our Lord's words are understandable when we think about his location in redemptive history. So their argument here is it was before the dawn of the new covenant. Because Jesus hadn't died yet.
That's the other element is when Jesus was talking about it, there was no new covenant. So he was still living under the law.
Yeah.
Well, now it's getting dicey because you're saying don't listen to what Jesus is saying.
Well, if there were red letters
No, when
that
it came
said
to
like
when
it does,
came to
right
the
here.
law.
What sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious law, and you Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are careful to tithe even the tiniest income from your herb gardens, but you ignore the more important aspects of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. You should tithe, yes, but do not neglect the more important things.
well, yeah, right. So
Well, he's telling them
talking
they
about
should as they're still
law.
under the law.
because he's referencing the law. So my
You
whole
should
argument is the
tithe,
new covenant.
but also don't neglect the more important things.
Well, right, but he's living under the law. They're all
Yeah, the
living under
Pharisees
the law.
are living under
My
the
whole
law
argument
still.
is the new covenant doesn't mention anything about tithing.
That doesn't mean necessarily you take all of what Jesus says as he can't be trusted or whatever. I mean, because
I don't think
he's specifically talking about something that is in the law that they followed. Because at that point, there wasn't the new covenant.
So I guess
Like you
what
were
do we
saying.
define as the new covenant? What is the new covenant?
The new covenant was established when Jesus died and resurrected in place of us for our sins.
Because I guess that's the hardest part for me is that we use the entire Bible to try to tell ourselves and other people how to live when the Bible itself says it used to be this way. Jesus came and changed it. Now it's this way.
Well,
And we don't really do enough.
Well, there's a lot of Christian teachers that'll just say like, "Hey, if you're gonna like pay attention to anything, just the New Testament. Just don't even read the Old Testament." It's just like because there's people who are just willing to just throw away the Old Testament.
No, I think it's all helpful. in my understanding, the Old Testament.
No, I'm just telling you,
lays out
there
the
are
need
people
for
that
it.
like definitely would argue that, yeah, it's completely changed. So why even go there? You know, so yeah, it's definitely, it's clearly the most important change in history, you know, the way Christians would see it.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to get out of tithing. I guess my whole point was that I personally believe that the new covenant speaks to a lifestyle and a heart of generosity, which is going to actually result in you giving much more than 10%.
I was going to say that.
Sure.
Yeah, because generally we went from following all the rules to basically with the Holy Spirit being able to discern what boundaries we establish for ourselves and disciplines and things like that. So it's like, yeah. So not just following a list of rules. And in so doing, the assumption is that you would be more generous than just your 10% or whatever the rule was. Yeah, well.
Yeah, because I guess, I don't know. It feels like
I don't
going
know.
back to the rules sometimes.
Oh, every time. All the
Naturally.
time.
Yeah.
It's that structure we need. Yeah. So we don't have time to go into a whole nother topic, but anyone have any last minute thoughts? Closing arguments? Other than everyone needs to subscribe and share with their friends who's
Shameless.
listening to this.
Shameless plug.
It's my podcast. I can plug it if I want.
Yeah.
It's our podcast. My fault. I didn't mean to just take ownership of that. Yeah. So some good combos today. It was a little random, but these are starting to turn into like just random thoughts. Who knows? Maybe we'll just change the scope. Make this like random podcast day.
Yeah.
Random
There's only
thoughts
so many
day.
controversial topics you can talk about, so you run
Yeah.
out of them.
Yeah. And then we're still going to start talking about seeing like your dog's pissing all over your dumbbells.
Yeah, that was not good. It wasn't good. They're I don't know. They're
Do
lashing
they still
out.
work? I mean, did they rust or anything?
No, yeah. So this is actually the second time it's happened. I just have
okay.
to carry the whole thing out back and I hose it off like crazy and then wipe it down with some like Clorox wipes and stuff.
And there's so many little pieces. It's like how much of a pain.
Oh, it's the worst, man.
And there's a mechanism that you can't even like get into.
That's why I think they're doing it on purpose. They're just like, you want to leave me here for 8 hours a day in a crate? All right, buddy. I got something for you. Wait till you're not looking. Dropping bombs.
What happens is someday when those dogs are no longer around, you're going to be like, I'm never getting a dog again. And then one day you're going to have kids and they'll be like, I want a dog. And then you're going to cave.
Dude, that was the smartest thing my dad ever did. It was a no animal household, strict policy, no tolerance, none so ever.
And
Whatsoever.
all three of his sons got dogs.
And now
It's just like-
now we understand.
Yeah. It's just like it's like you felt deprived as a child. So then you had to go out and
Yeah.
get your fix. Because you still have Christian's dogs, right? His dog?
Well, mine and his, yeah. We got the two, but we couldn't. Like, how do you split them up? They came home together since they were like 8 weeks old. They don't know anything else, but I mean, they would probably like get depressed and die if we separated them.
Yeah.
I just tell myself that and we just keep them together.
You just tell
Sure,
yourself
they'd be
that.
fine.
Christian,
The problem is if we split them, we'd eventually each get another one, so they weren't alone again.
Christian got the easy side of that one. But it's fine. Yeah, hey, you're doing a good thing for the dogs.
Well,
Good.
and I mean, I'm at the house by myself. Like, if I didn't have the dogs, it'd probably feel real lonely. They're my little homies.
Oh, okay.
Little
it's,
homie?
It's getting deeper than just
Yeah.
You're not talking to me.
pissing on your dumbbells.
You're talking to little homie.
You're talking a little homie.
What's up, dog?
That was probably my favorite one. That one was really like
When he
really
shot,
well
when he
thought
shot
out.
him, that's funny.
Take it easy, little homie.
So he just had like a blood like spurt packet just ready to roll.
I guess.
Right.
That's
Splatter
hilarious.
pack.
Though. You imagine if you were that elaborate, if you were trying to get some like
That was
some guy to
actually
change his
attacked
life.
Yeah, because it's like, what's going to stop that
Are
crazy
you
little
talking
puppet
to
from
me?
shooting me too? Like, if I witnessed that.
Puppets and marionettes and dolls. Oh my
That's what he
gosh,
looks like.
dude, the worst. Like some of the worst horror films.
I'm glad we've come a long way.
You should be talking to little homie.
Yeah, you're right. I do like their chemistry is pretty incredible.
So
It's
good.
funny.
I have another one I got to show you. It's about NFL names. Like at the
Nice.
beginning of the game when they play like they show like the defensive
The
line.
different like starters or whatever.
It is so outlandish.
It's fantastic.
That's awesome. All right, well, we got to end it. I got a call coming up. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next episode.